Hello everyone. Tonight I'm going to be baking, and I'm going to be baking banana bread. And so to bake banana bread, I need some ingredients. I start with bananas here, and the bananas have to be very, very ripe. We can see these bananas are ripe. They have brown spots on the peel. Some people wait till the banana is completely brown, but I'm going to use these bananas that are only partially brown. The next ingredient we need is walnuts. We also need eggs, vanilla flavoring, milk, butter, unsalted butter, baking soda, salt, flour, and sugar. The first step when baking, of course, is to wash your hands, because nobody wants to eat food that's been made with dirty hands. The next step is to make some preparations. So the first thing I did was I put flour in these baking pans, which will prevent the banana bread from sticking to the pan. And I also am preheating my oven. And now I'm going to melt the butter. So I'm going to put the butter in the microwave for 30 seconds. And the last thing I will need to do before I begin is measure out the ingredients. Alright, here are the ingredients measured out. We have our melted butter. I have 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of sugar. Here is our baking soda and salt mixed together. We're going to have 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/4 cup of milk, 2 eggs, 2 bananas, and the walnuts are now chopped. My camera froze and I didn't get to show you the first step here, but I just mixed together my sugar and my melted butter. And now the second step is I'm going to add the eggs. So I need to crack the eggs and add them to my mixture. So there's 1 egg, 2 eggs. Have to be careful not to get the shell in the mixture. Nobody wants to bite into a piece of shell. Alright, and now I will mix these together. And now that the egg has been mixed in, I'm going to add my milk, and I'm going to add vanilla extract, and I need 1 teaspoon. So I'm going to pour this into my measuring spoon over the bowl, just in case I spill a little. If it spills, it will. There we go. It will just be some extra vanilla flavor in my bread and not a mess on the counter. Alright, there it is. And I'm going to mix this together. Now we are adding the most important ingredient for banana bread, which is the bananas. And so I'll take this banana here and begin to peel it. The peel is a little difficult to remove because the banana is very ripe, and so the peel is coming off in small pieces. And you'll also notice that the banana itself is a little bruised, but that's okay because it will be mixed in with the batter. And so I'm removing the peel, and I want to make sure I remove all of the peel, including these little pieces that have stayed behind, because they will make the batter bitter. And so now I'm just breaking the banana into pieces and adding it to the bowl. And I'm going to repeat for the second banana. And this peel is coming off a little more easily than the first. So I'm just going to break the banana into pieces as I go and add it to the bowl. And this banana is a little mushy. As you see, it's falling apart really easily, and it's also sticking to my fingers a lot. Okay, and so we have one little piece left here. We're going to put that in the bowl, and now I need to clean up a little bit, so I'm going to set this down and go wash my hands. My fingers are very sticky. Now our banana is mixed up into the mixture here, into the batter. And the final step is going to be adding the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. So I have here my flour, and I also have my baking soda and salt. And so what I like to do is mix them together before I add them to the batter. And this is just so the salt and baking soda get distributed evenly throughout the flour. So I mix my dry ingredients together, and then I'm going to use a whisk to just mix them evenly together. And I don't have to mix a lot, just enough to get them incorporated. And so now I'm going to start my mixer and add the flour a little bit at a time. Just a little bit at a time until it gets well incorporated. And then I also need to use my cake spatula here to scrape down the sides of the bowl. So as you see here, not all of the flour got incorporated. Not all of the flour is mixed in. So I want to make sure that this flour that's on the sides of the bowl gets mixed into the batter. So I just go around the edge of the bowl and just make sure that it gets in there. All right, and then I'm going to put it back on the mixing stand here and mix it just a little bit more to make sure all that flour gets incorporated. All right, now I don't want to over mix it, so I'm going to stop there. The final step is adding the chopped nuts, and I'm just going to dump them in there and let the mixer mix them just a little bit. just enough to get them distributed throughout the batter. All right. And now I'm going to clean off. This is the beater. I'm going to clean off the beater. And then I'm going to put the batter into my pans. Here are my two pans that I'm going to use. I believe this is enough batter for 2 loaves of bread. And so I'm just going to use my spatula and pour the batter into my pan and try to pour them evenly. And I'm not going to fill the loaf up. I'm not going to fill the pan up completely. And let's see here. Actually, it looks like this might be enough for just 1 loaf. So I'm going to go ahead and put it all in one pan. I was mistaken. I thought this recipe made 2 loaves. Sometimes when you make batter, it expands when it cooks. It takes up more space after it cooks. But I am actually remembering the last time I made this, I made the same mistake. I tried to make 2 loaves, and the loaves came out very small. They were not very big. Okay, and so there's some batter left in the pan here. I'm going to scrape around the edges of the pan with my spatula to try and get every last bit of batter out of the pan. It takes a little work at the end here to get all the batter out. But it's worth it because we don't want any of this to go to waste. All right, I think that's good enough. And the final thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to even out the batter. I'm going to spread it around just a little bit to make sure it's not going to come out uneven. We don't want our bread to look lopsided. All right, there it is. And of course, I always have to try the batter. That tastes really good. Okay, and now we're going to put it in the oven. Okay, so my oven is heated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are going to take the pan and put it in the oven here. So I'm going to put it on the middle rack, in the middle there. Okay, so these are racks, and now I'm going to close the oven. We don't want to leave it open too long because all the heat will escape. And I'm going to set a timer for 50 minutes. Okay, here we go. 50 minutes. 30, 40, 50. All right, and so it will be ready in 50 minutes. I think it's done. Let's take a look and see. I'm going to open the oven door, and oh, look at that. That just looks wonderful. Okay, I'm going to pull it out. I'm wearing my oven mitt to protect my hand. And now I am going to let this sit for about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to remove the banana bread from the pan. It's been resting for about 10 minutes, which is ideal. And so the first thing I'm going to do is use a butter knife to loosen up the edges. So I'll just go around the edge with the butter knife. Okay, and now I'm going to shake it just a little bit to try and loosen up the bread from the pan. I don't want to do it too much because the bread might fall apart. And there we go. It comes right out. And now I'm going to cool the bread on this baking rack. There it is. I'll give you guys a look at it. Look at that. All right. And then once it's cooled, I will cut it open and show you. The bread has been cooling for about an hour now, and when I feel it, it's a little warm, but it can be cut. So I'm going to move the loaf over to my cutting board, and I'm going to cut it with a knife. Let's see here. I have different knives. I think I want a bread knife. And a bread knife has a serrated edge. The edge is serrated. This actually doesn't look super clean, so I'm going to wash this knife first. Okay, back with a clean knife, and we're going to cut the loaf. I'm going to cut it in half, like right about there. Here is a slice of the bread. It has a fairly heavy consistency. I'm going to break off a piece here and try it. That's really good. Alright, I hope you enjoyed watching me make banana bread. See you around. Now I have a lot of dirty dishes to wash, but I'm kind of lazy, so I'm going to use my dishwasher and clean up.